Hello and welcome to the GeekVerse podcast, a special episode covering Summer Game Fest 2022 kickoff event. I'm your host, Dylan Musk. Today, I'm joined by, you got a nickname there, so I'll let you introduce yourself. And my nickname is still Miss Marvel, so I got to update that on the overlay here.
Well, before I get my name, I just want to pimp out my new cup. Some people sent it today. I'm really happy with it. Reduced cups, that's a great cup. Also, my camera is Canon camera. So yeah, I'm the promotion machine, Travis. Now,
Good stuff. I'm not gonna update my name. I'm gonna keep Big Me Little Me. For the
it's a
YouTube
good
fans.
one. Yeah,
I like it. It's good. It's podcast.
Big me, little
related.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, Travis. Today we're talking all about Summer Game Fest, which had their 2-hour kickoff showcase today. We always talk about these. We've been covering Jeff Keighley's events, the Game Awards, in these last couple of years.
We've covered every Summer Games Fest too, because there's only been 3 of them, so we've covered all of them. We're at that state where in 20 years from now we'll be like, oh man, remember the first Summer Games Fest?
Yeah. Oh, think back to these early days. Hopefully without spoiling anything. What did you think of this showcase, Travis? We've talked a little bit already, but what did you think?
I feel like we kind of had to message each other as far as just like to kind of get not reassurance, because not that we need reassurance for opinions, but just kind of like the, can you believe that? And here's the thing. It's interesting because you and I talked about that, where for the past few years, I feel like once Geek first started, we started covering the Game Awards because it's like, okay, we all were into that stuff. We watched it. And we've talked about that for years. How one year you get a really great show. One year we'd get why did we stream this? Why did we sit around and watch this? Like, other than us hanging out, there was no reason to, no announcements. The actual awards sometimes get like rushed by. So obviously they introduced Summer Games Fest. We had the first year, we had no idea what was going on. It was just like a whole whack of, it was just announcement with no date. So it was even worse. At least we kind of get like a rough schedule now. And then the second year was refined and it was really good. And I think what happened was they had the first Summer Games Fest, but then had the Game Awards. That was a great show. I remember the last one was a great show. One of those kind of like 9.5 out of 10, 5 out of 5, whatever, like great E3 showings that we talked about in the past. It was like that. And then we got Summer's Games Fest, and that happened. And then we got this last Game Awards, which again, so he kind of had 3 in a row, which were all like very good to great. And I think we had talked about that. I think it was maybe Summer Game Fest or whichever one we covered, we talked about he's finally found, I think, his rhythm of putting on these shows, and he had a good streak of getting a couple home runs. Where this, I feel like, is just getting to first base. Now, I do feel bad because, like, here's the thing. I think there's some things I'll kind of go on Keighley about as we go throughout the show that I think is okay. You made a mistake here, but I think he's a genuine like gamer. He's a genuine like fan of these things, and it sucks. Did you see that poll he put out today?
I didn't actually.
So he put out the poll. I'll get the exact percents later on, but he did the classic, like, how would you grade the Summer Games Fest show? 9% was an A, and then it was like it was a combination of 26 to 32%, like all for C, D, and B. Ooh. So, and that's where you never know, right? Because sometimes when I'm watching these shows and I'm not enjoying it, I go, yeah, but maybe I'm wrong, because maybe it's just people are really loving these games. But it just felt like the general consensus was not that it was bad, but just meh. And that, you don't like, it's almost, you don't want to be bad, but at least bad, you kind of get memorable and you can have some memes, and like Bethesda can come out and make fun of themselves. Like, he could do that in the future, even though Keighley, I think, is trying to put on a very professional show. Forgettable, I think, is almost worse than bad, because it's just, and that's what this kind of was. There's a few things I liked here. There's a few world premieres that I did like as well. But I think he tried a few days ago to set expectations where he said, hey, we're going to show mostly games that have come out. So, we're really excited about that, but don't expect, your big L rings. And we kind of alluded to that when we did the preview show, where unless there's something he's going to pull out, like the Kojima game, which is rumored, there's no big smoking gun to end this show. All of them have been delayed for quite a while. And again, I really don't think God of War is coming out this year, because I thought if there's anything, maybe could have got it here. But so you didn't have that, but it just felt like in general he was lacking a lot of content. We'll go over it, but I think what should have been done is this should have been at least hour and a, like I think an hour, but at least an hour and a half. 2 hours was not necessary. Maybe it is with runtime and ads and sponsorships, and we can talk about that later. But I think he could have made this a really killer hour show, because at first we were like, oh, only an hour, that sucks. But with what we got here, it could have been fast-paced. And my first sign before I throw it over to you of why I knew there was going to be a lot of games is because the past few years, he's rarely done not rarely, but it's few and far in between when he does the show a game and then let's talk to the people and then they're going to show more. We've talked about in E3 where we've harped on sometimes that goes on too long, and he did a lot of that of, oh, here's something cool, let's bring up people, and just feel like time filling. So I think it could have been condensed to be a lot better, and I think he will. The good thing is about Keely, he will take this to heart. There's some things that I wonder with sponsorship if he's he's already agreed to, and it might be kind of tough to, but then just find better ways. And I know there's an egregious one I already talked about, we'll get there, but yeah, so a big meh. I really hope Xbox brings it on Sunday because I just want a really good show, and especially right now we still haven't heard anything about Nintendo, so I think we'll get something in June, but I don't know if it's a part of this pocket, so I really hope Xbox brings heat, because State of Play was fine. I think this was fine, so yeah, we'll see. But what do you think?
Yeah, well, I also skipped all of our promo stuff because I just completely forgot. But yes, Xbox show on Sunday, which we're going to be covering that as well. And I'm really looking forward to that one because I just feel like there's such a high chance of seeing Starfield, Redfall, and or Avowed, and all three of those things I'm very, very excited for. So
really, you think it's high chance of seeing all three of those?
I think at least two of the three, but I think we'll see all three of them. I don't know if we'll get. Now, honestly, I do maybe I'm setting my expectations too high, but I do expect gameplay for all three of those.
Whoa, yeah. See, I for me, I think Bloodfall's the one is going to be not there. I think you're going. What is it? Redfall. Blood. You know, close up. But that's the one that I think is we're not going to get anything other than maybe like a mention. I think you could get
maybe.
And even then, I'll go on the leg. I don't think you'll get Starfield gameplay either. I don't think it's going to happen.
How much do we want to go into this? Because me and Taylor did our predictions. I guess I'll.
Those are my predictions. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess for me, Redfall was supposed to come out this summer, so I feel like it did get delayed, obviously, but I still think it's probably pretty far along that they would have some of that show. And then Starfield, I think their marketing is like the Starfield logo, essentially, with the Xbox logos and stuff over it. I think the plan was big Starfield showcase here, games coming out in fall. Obviously, it got delayed, but I don't think they're gonna not show that footage.
That's a good point, yeah.
And then Avowed, I think, is coming out pretty soon, so I think they want.
Yeah, I'm with you on Avowed. Unless that Starfield footage is looking like Halo's Greg. Remember Greg, that guy? You don't want that going on. So maybe that's why it got delayed. So, what do you think about this show, though?
Yeah, getting back on track. I think this is a really poorly done show. I'm pretty disappointed in the presentation here from Jeff. I feel like when I think back to last year, and I'd have to go rewatch it again, but when I think back on it, I just have good memories. I think it was well paced, wasn't too long, a lot of good mix of gameplay and new special reveals, things like that. But I feel like this show, just 2 hours, a lot of it dragged. The pacing, not very good. So many fucking ads. And I know that these showcases are always just essentially ads for games, but it's different when you have the TV spot commercials all over the place, or things that we've seen a bunch of times already. I think also the placement, I don't know how much he knew about what was going to be shown at the State of Play, but that really took a lot of the wind out of the sails here, where I mean, it was fun to see Callisto Protocol again. We'll talk about that game, but Street Fighter 6 being the big opener for this show, and us getting that huge 10-minute, whatever it was, 8, 5, however minute it was at Sony State of Play last week, where it's we did not need to see that again. And they just showed off a character that's been in Street Fighter for 30 years. So it was very unexciting. And it was just a lot of that. A lot of, here's Gotham Knights again. Here's all these games that you've already seen 100 times. And just outside of that, some really weirdly placed ads. Just also the memes have already gone all over the place of all the space horror thriller games that are in here, which is cool. I like that genre. That's fun. But the pacing of it, all of them were in the first 40 minutes. That's why it's so noticeable. And then there was a mid chunk that just had 15 minutes of anime stuff. And I don't know. I guess maybe that was the idea, is to bundle those things together if they're similar. But to me, it kind of hurt the pacing, where if you're not into those things, then you're sitting around for a while. And and then I was hoping in the second half it would get better. I didn't even, and the show just kept going on and on and on. I did not think it was going to be 2 hours. Maybe he said that. He probably did, and I just didn't see that. I thought
He
I
at
thought it
one
was
point
like
said
hour and a half or something.
he said
but-
hour and a half to 2 hours, and that's why I
Okay.
think maybe I think the show's an hour and a half, but I think the ad space is probably
Mhm.
like half an hour and stuff.
Right.
But you're completely right about the blocks. I don't think that helps at all. I think it's good to keep switching up, like between whatever you said with the space games. That's
Mhm.
right, because one, they all blend together, and two, yeah, you're right about the blocks, because then at least okay, yeah, a little anime game or something here, and then you move on, and maybe it comes back up. But there's times you could almost know, okay, I could kind of check out, and I don't fully check out because I know we're talking about here.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's like for the other people, I feel like they did not have the same flow it usually did, or at least he
No.
has the past couple events.
I
I'll
had
say.
my Switch in front of me, and I was like, playing things on the side for
Mhm.
a couple sequences. Like, and,
Yep.
and I'm a gaming hardcore that likes all genres, but it still like had that effect on me. And then even just like in terms of the pacing, a lot of people brought up on stage, which I'm down for the developers to talk, but I didn't feel like maybe one or two of those sequences actually were helpful, and the rest.
Mhm.
I don't know, it was like 20, 30 seconds of them like complimenting Jeff and the showcases
Yeah.
all he does. Which
You're Canadian. I'm
he does
Canadian.
do a lot, yeah, but like I don't need that from everyone. And just some other parts that didn't really work for me so much. So there is some good games to talk about here, but talking about like we're about to break it down, but we are cutting out like probably 80% of what was
Mhm.
shown here because they're just not. I think most of them would be like. We'd say, not really for me, and then we'd move on. So obviously, we're not really pointing us saying that for a bunch of games, but that just goes to show how much in here seemed like filler. So yeah, I'm kind of disappointed, and I remember the last Game Awards as well was like the ads were just savage, and even though there was some good like show offs and things like that, he just really needs to work on the balancing of things. And I know he's got to make that money, and you got to get the ads in there. But I don't know. I hope he can find better ways to do it because it really hurts the showcase. And
Yeah, and that's always the tough thing, right? Like to break the fourth wall, we have the same thing of that all the time too. It's like that's how like we make a lot of income as ads and stuff. But the thing is, like at least with us, it's not trying to be the rock here, but at least like we do offer an option where it's like, hey, if you really don't like ads, you can support us in another way and get that feed. Where this. You don't have that. You just have to. And it's not even like the Super Bowl where like you get those ads, but it's like, oh, it's about like it's a fun event. These just always feel very sponsorship level, very just kind of in your face, and it's tough because even the Game Awards sometimes feel that when it's like this award's presented by the Kool-Aid Awards. Like, all right, I kind of get that. But again, I feel like there's been other years where he's been better at incorporating them. Where you go, okay, I know you got to do an ad, but you have to, right? Because if he doesn't do that, these shows don't happen. The wheel doesn't keep moving. So I always get that. It's just you gotta find a way, and you gotta limit yourself. And again, we'll talk to a big thing when we get to that certain person. But there's times where you gotta know, okay, is this completely the route you want to go? And it's tough because I get it, right? Because again, he's sub to Jeff's Patreon ad-free version of Summer Game Fest. Maybe one day. But that's I like I said, it's just because we've seen him doing better. That's why I can kind of say, hey, what happened this year, But maybe there's just so many that he felt he couldn't. I don't know. It's tough. I'm not in his shoes as well, so I don't also know the business things of, hey, maybe X, Y, and Z don't happen if you don't do these things, and know.
Yeah, and you mentioned that he seems like he's a pretty good about taking feedback and things like that, and I hope that is the case. Although I do feel like there is a trend towards like this becoming just a crazy ad fest that's becoming a bit unbearable in the pacing wise, and like I don't know, like obviously I'm always going to tune into these things, but I think for most people I would not recommend watching them. I would just watch the highlights later or check the articles after that recap, like the game announcements, and go check out the trailers that you're interested in, because his shows are getting very bloated. With that, let's get right into the games. So like I said, we're going to cut a lot of stuff out of here. Something like a lot of it, like me and Taylor broke down a lot of it last week on the State of Play. So it's like, I don't know if we have too much more to say about Street Fighter. So, Travis, you can jump in if there is a game you wanted to mention.
I don't have much to mention about Street Fighter, but when does Capcom have their thing? It's this weekend, right?
I think it is. I think it's Saturday.
Why?
It is interesting, right? Like they've shown off so much stuff.
Yeah.
And I know they have more, and I'm really hoping for still the Resident Evil 8 DLC, which we haven't seen anywhere else. We saw like the VR thing at State of Play, but that's the one thing I'm still looking forward to. I don't think I would tune into that show because it's probably going to be more Street Fighter, more Monster Hunter, more Resident Evil stuff. So, yeah, it's they've definitely been upping that marketing budget, haven't they?
Yeah, it just reminds me exactly what happened to I think it was Square last year when they showed Guardians and a bunch of other games, and they had their own thing. It was just you've seen it almost everywhere. There was nothing new about
Hmm.
Guardians, nothing new. So again, just because you kind of have the power, and I guess it's because it's digital, people think, oh, we should do this, but I don't know. But I guess maybe Capcom fans. I'm saying that there's some Street Fighter fan really
Hmm.
excited, but yeah, now we
Yeah.
can move on.
Okay, the first game that we're going to talk about is Aliens Dark Descent. So
Mm-hmm.
Taylor's pretty excited about this one.
Yep.
This was mostly a CG trailer of some pretty, like, I was like, is this Alien Isolation 2? What's going on here? Definitely had that kind of vibe. Although there was definitely a focus on, like, okay, there are many aliens and you had a bigger team. And then we did get a quick flash at the end of it that showed like 5 seconds of gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And it is kind of like a top down twin stick shooter sort of thing, co op focus, which looks cool. We didn't get a ton of gameplay, but what did you think of this one?
I I I knew it in my bones that it was an Alien game the second because I saw that Fox logo and it's just like, okay, what else could it be happening? Or sorry, it's 20th Century now. That's
Mm.
what it's called now. But Alien kind of has this kind of fun history of video games. Like you have
Hmm.
Isolation, you have like what is it, Alien Firefighter, Fire Team, like something like that. Like
Yeah.
they have multiple games, so I definitely felt it was going to go that route where it's the you. There's that game Taylor also plays about talks about too, where they have I think they made an Alien versus Predator game, and they
Yeah. I played
yeah.
that on the 360. It was a classic. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was getting more vibes of that where it's going to be more shooting, and that's kind of what we got here. So I'm hoping that it does become a game that what you and Taylor are talking about in our Discord, a streaming game, a game we can have some fun
Hmm.
with, everything like that. Because right away, it's like I think people Alien is just built for I think video games. It has that aesthetic, it
Yeah.
has that tone, it has that vibe, and
Dude,
it's
I
like
used to have an Alien game on the NES that I played
oh
as a
yeah.
kid, and it was like I've actually gone back and played it in the last few years.
Mhm.
It's a really cool game. It's very strange, but it's yeah. I always had a kind of history with it in some Alien
Yeah,
games.
and that's what I mean. It's fun. It kind of has this fun history that a lot of other movie, titles don't to it. So it's one of my ears perked up right away. Like, okay,
Hmm.
this is on the radar. I want this to be good. I'm sure this is going to be like a $60, $70, 80 pop. So I want to see what there is more to it. If it
I
was,
wonder if it is though. I mean, I just think the genre usually kind of twin stick shooters like that are
Mhm.
less. I don't know about Fireteam, but I don't think that was a full price game. I think it was a
Okay.
bit cheaper side. So I could see them doing the same thing here. And this like co-op kinds of multiplayer games like this seem just ripe for the picking for streaming services. So whether
Mhm.
that's a Sony partnership and they can get on PS Plus or Game Pass or something else, that
That'd be
would be
great.
pretty cool if we could see that happen because that'd be a
Yeah.
nice way to jump in with some friends. But yeah, I'd say I'm excited for this one. It's hard when you only get 5 seconds of gameplay,
Mhm.
but I do like that genre, and I'm always down for a good co-op game. So I think I could definitely see myself picking this one up. It really just depends on the price for me
Price and
for a game
time.
like this.
Because that could be that game that's going to drop during like Breath of the Wild 2, and you got to
Right.
make that choice. Where it's like, sorry, aliens, you're getting the boot to next December. But like we saw so many space horror type of games, but it's
Hmm.
funny. I feel like almost everyone that's making that type of game is probably a fan of Alien. Alien is
Yeah.
the perfect franchise for
Yep.
video games because it's like you have a horror base and you have action base. Those are the two, and sci-fi. So yeah, this
Hmm.
is what I'm keeping my eye on. I can't say it's a guaranteed kind of day one because I kind of
Yeah.
said that about because I see Bubs in the chat about that Evil Dead game, which I was really excited about, but it just came out at a bad time where it's like for that price and for all the other stuff I'm already playing, I'm
Hmm.
gonna sit on it. But this is a game that if it gets good reviewed, I would see it popping up in a stream or something like that in the future. So fun idea. Hopefully it's worth the time.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing more gameplay and what kind of mechanics there is. And I mean, that's always been a part of the Alien stuff is that, or at least Alien Isolation, more of a stealth focused back to the NES game. Like there's always that stealth element to it, which to
Yeah.
me doesn't really fit with this genre necessarily. So I'm curious to see how they mix the two, or if it's just a straight ahead action game, then
Mm-hmm.
that would that's probably what it will be. But anyway, just maybe some more dynamic there. We'll see in the future. The next game, similar genre, the Callisto Protocol. So this was a bit of a weird showing once again because it started with the same trailer that was at State of Play last week, but then they called it the Schofield cut, which is I guess the director of the game. So it had like a little bit more footage, and then they had him on stage. They talked to him for a bit, and then they showed like about 2 minutes of gameplay, like
Yeah.
a gameplay sequence. So you weren't on that State of Play coverage last week. So what do you think about Callisto Protocol? Are you excited for this game?
The second, I can't remember when. It was like a few weeks ago where it was on some sort of game magazine or something. That was like the first look of it. Because I think all I had been heard is like the title and the synopsis of what it is. But I saw the images. I was like, okay, this could be kind of cool. We talked on the Discord where it's made by the people that did Dead Space, which I never played, but I always hear like great things about. So all this was ratcheting up. And then once I saw both, like, say, play this, I'm really into it. Now with it coming out December, it's gonna be tough because like look at October for me. That's a stack. Like there's lots of games coming out, but December, this is definitely gonna be one I want to see how it reviews. But it's hitting all those boxes, and I especially like because for a while I was questioning, oh, what's it gonna be? But I love that third person. You know, that's kind of my favorite go-to genre, and it's just everything about it I'm seeing. I like the world so far. They're really, lots of these games hit the horror vibe, so I think they're really going for the very dark and brutal, twisted kind of
brutal.
yeah, gross imagery, but like that's type of stuff. Like this looks like a game where it's like, okay, I won't be able to play with the kids are awake, but that's fine. Like that's what I want sometimes. So it kind of looked like it had not the exact same, but that Resident Evil 7 type of level of grossness going on. That was more on a scary route. So yeah, I like what I'm seeing. I don't know what the story is gonna be, but it's hitting all the whatever the Travis checkbox marks are. It's marking all those off right now. So it's definitely on. It's more on the radar because, like I said, it's December's tough time. But I think if it's at least reviewed well, I probably will be buying this game because it just has my interest right now.
Nice. Yeah, to me the brutality like really stuck out in this trailer. I mean, they highlighted it for sure with the couple shots. One where the player character like falls into a fan that is pretty much like a wood chipper and just chopping you up very slowly. Like that is a long animation, which is amazing. And then also at one point, like one of the monsters just bites the character's
I was
head
gonna
in
bring that
half.
up. Yeah,
And it's like it's not like some cheesy little I don't know animation. Like it is brutal. So
oh yeah, it's zoomed in. You're
totally
seeing
down for that.
everything. Yeah.
I like this. They definitely add a lot more with this. Like I'm glad we saw this, even though we did see it last week, because like just having those 2 minutes of concurrent gameplay to see what that's like, and it is very much Dead Space, similar kind of weapons. The one thing that stuck out to me is in Dead Space, like one of the things that people have always praised about it is how it takes like what would normally be UI elements and like puts them in the game in a way. So like your health bar is like down your spine as like lights, right? And then like the less
that's
health
cool.
you have, it like turns the lights off. They have the same thing here, but it's like a bright green light on the back of your neck. And I just think aesthetically it's so much worse. Like it's such a dark game, so to have this like very bright, colorful GV green like on the back of his neck, that's presumably I think that's the health bar. It didn't actually go down at all, but I'm guessing that's what's happening there. I wonder if you can change that in the settings, maybe change the color of it because it stands out a bit much for me. But I like that they're once again sticking with that idea because I feel like a lot of games have kind of copied that, and it is a great thing. Like contextualizing that kind of thing into the game world is really fun. So I like that. And then the other thing that stood out to me is just getting a bit more of not necessarily the story, but for me the setting. I've known that Callisto is like one of Jupiter's moons, but I kind of forgot in the context whenever we've seen this game. And it was cool to see that shot at the beginning where they had like Jupiter up in the sky, and obviously, so you're on Callisto, which I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of Callisto, Travis, but you should Google it right now. Google like Callisto, Jupiter's moon. It's like one of the most beautiful things you'll ever see. It's so cool. Anyway, I'm nerding out about astronomy stuff, but I really like that setting, so I'm kind of down to see where the story goes, or at least just that setting. I'm down to see it.
Yeah, it's so beautiful, but then what's on this actual planet, not so beautiful.
Right?
it's a good kind of duality going on.
It's a good
there.
like horror setting, So that's pretty exciting for me. And like you said, December 2nd is that one. So nothing else is currently announced for December. Actually, I guess Stalker 2 is, but that one I think that's just more of a placeholder than it is an actual date. So
not the most
maybe
Christmassy
things come out late November, so there's stuff to compete. But otherwise, I think this game does have a nice runway of being on its own right now, and it is, like me and Taylor talked about, a nice couple months before Dead Space remake. So that's good timing on their part. So I'm pretty excited for this game. Anything else on this one you want to mention?
No, I just hope it does review well. I hope it's not one that has a lot of potential and we get close. But again, because who's behind it, I think we got a good chance of it being good.
Right. Okay, this next one I included in our notes because I know you've been playing a lot of this series lately, but Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, which of course is always going to show up at these kinds of events because they got just so much money that they have all the marketing dollars you could ever want. This game's coming out October 28th, which I don't know if that was announced before this.
I think it might have been leaked.
Okay.
I think that's what it might be because
I
there's
mean,
a few
it's-
things from this that
usually
leaked.
they
Obviously,
come out like in November, right? So this
Yeah.
is, I guess, a little bit early. I mean, a few days.
Mhm.
But the people on stage talking about the game, they will not let you forget that date either. Oh my God, they dropped October 20th, October so many times. You will never forget the release date of this game.
no.
So they showed kind of a maybe 5-minute gameplay sequence of this. Yeah, like I said, you've been playing a lot of Call of Duty lately. I know it's more the Warzone than it is the
Mhm.
single player games or even the traditional multiplayer. But what do you think of this demonstration here?
Every time a Call of Duty game previews, for the most part, it's looking good. It's looking like it's, moved forward and everything like that. And it always looks like a lot of fun. But then I remember, okay, there's an $80 price limit there. And that was back in the day where, again, I didn't really play Call of Duty at all. Now I play Warzone, but they got Warzone 2 coming out this year. So that's what I'll be doing. So I think if you love Call of Duty, this is for you. But at the same time, like, I get they do this, and they have so much money, but I feel like Call of Duty, they're almost kind of like Rockstar with Grand Theft Auto, where because they always, at least we'll see what happens with 6, but with 5, they did like their own thing, like their own mini, just like trailer drops. This weren't really powered by anybody else. I think Call of Duty could be on none of these and probably sell the exact same, and that's what I've always thought. It's weird. Again, it's just because they have money, they do it. But I think what sucks is it has just such a big showcase and it's on for so long. Because when they also, like, I thought the trailer was good. It was fine, looking good, looking beautiful. Call of Duty usually looks very graphically, very
the rain
well.
effects really
Yeah.
stood out to me.
I think they announced Soap was back, or whatever that guy is. I can't remember them all. I don't know them all. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure he's hyped somewhere. But yeah, I'll never buy a Call of Duty game again. Will I play it? Sure. Will I play Warzone? Sure. But I'll never buy it because it's just there's nothing more for me to go back. Maybe in year, but I guess if Warzone didn't exist, I'd say, okay, maybe years from now, I want a shooter. I want to scratch that itch. But now that I got Warzone, that kind of is the equivalent. I know it's not the exact same thing, and yeah, as Bub says right there, demo was way too long. And that's all I saw too from everybody. And it felt long. That's again where I started to go, okay, he doesn't have as much to show as previous years or previous events, and that's where it kind of set in. Because I get Call of Duty pays a lot of money, but it just felt like it was not needed. But we got it. So but I know you're loving the title, right?
No, yeah, I hate that title. Yeah, I mean the show was fine. I mean the effects look great, like the kind of shipping containers going back and forth, like that looks like a fun level. But yeah, as Bubs mentioned, too long, and I don't know. It's just more Call of Duty for me. Which when I did jump into Warzone eventually, I kind of forgot, like, man, the animation quality, just like every little thing, like you can just feel the budget off of every like clip and every angle of this. Like it's they've got all the money in the world to make these games like super high fidelity. But yeah, I don't really need like a full gameplay demo at these things anymore. And also this map looked a lot like the COD 4. I forget what the level's called, but the map is called Shipment.
Yeah.
In Modern Warfare 1. So I don't know if they were trying to pull on the heartstrings a bit, and like, oh, you remember this map that you loved back in the day?
Same boat.
It's back, but now there's more rain. Like,
yeah.
Anyway, Call of Duty. Yeah, they talked around Warzone 2, but didn't show anything.
They talked around it so much that I worry it's not coming out in the fall, to be honest. I won't say that's going to happen, but I thought it was going to be a bigger emphasis because you're not going to have Game Awards. And again, maybe because that's for free, they feel a little less like, hey, you don't got to, we're not going to pimp that. We're going to pimp out the game and stuff. But
Yep. All right. Next up, I wanted to mention this game called The Witchfire, which I think Jeff mentioned that it has been shown before, but I don't remember seeing this game before. But it kind of looked a little bit like Doom, not quite as high fidelity, not quite as speedy, but just in terms of having all these crazy weapons, tons of like monsters coming at you. But it has more of a fantasy setting, and I just really like the visuals. I like the setting. I like the kind of castles in the background and the weather effects. Like, it looked really cool. I think one thing that really stood out to me, though, is that just the sound, like what it was, the combination of the music they had in there and the sound effects just wasn't all that great. So I feel like it just felt a bit flat because of that. But this does look like a pretty fun game that I would be down to check out. I got to see more of it because they also didn't really demonstrate any sort of story elements or characters or really anything like that. It might just be kind of a combat only sort of game, which I could be down with, but I think I got to be sold for those kinds of things, at least for first-person shooters. I've just played so many of them that I need a little bit something more on the plate to get me to buy it. So What did you think about this one? Did it stand out to you in any way?
Well, I was gonna say this, but he said in Discord, and then he said it here again, so I won't steal from him. But when he said S Bubs, our great listener, said Elden Ring, the Gun Edition. For me, when I saw it, the landscapes and the coloring looked identical
That's
to
fair,
Elden
yeah.
Ring, and I was just like, "What is going on?" And when he said that comment, I knew it wasn't that, but
Do
I
you
was
think
like,
they changed that in response to Elden Ring being huge? And they're like, we gotta change our weather effects a bit.
maybe I don't know if
That's
because
a conspiracy. They probably know.
they probably didn't, but crazier stuff has happened. But that's all I could think the whole time. But yeah, so obviously now I've talked about this on the podcast where I played Doom, really, really liked that. I still got to play the sequels on Game Pass. I have it download ready to go. I just haven't had time. Call of Duty. So there was a time in my life where I had said no to any first person shooter. I was kind of done with them. I can get coaxed back into them. I don't know if this is one that if I hear good enough things, I would play on a Games Pass, but I don't see myself buying it, even if for a reduced price. That I liked it enough, but it just didn't. It didn't pull me in as much as other people. I think it is cool, the concept of you got these guns in like a medieval fantasy type of realm and stuff, but it just looked like a one that I very much will skip unless we're talking game of the year contention here. There wasn't too much for me here. So, but it looked cool. I liked it visually. It looked good. The music I didn't have much as a problem with, but so it stuck out a little bit, but at the same point, I had to when I pulled up notes again, I had to research it. The second I saw it, I was like, okay, that's the game, but I forgot about it before. Like I saw, I'm like, Witchfire, I had to think about it, and once I pull up images, I go, okay, I know which one now. But
yeah, it's on my radar now, so I'll keep an eye on it and report back in the future if I end up playing it.
Some cool looking creatures. Like I'm scrolling through them right now, and that's always a good thing. So.
Yeah, I like the look of the armor and creatures and all that stuff. Like it's just some fun designs. Let's take a Jeff Keighley inspired ad break and come back and talk about some more games. And we are back.
Somebody's giving us a 1 star. Oh, you give Jeff shit like that. Hey, we went 31 minutes. Jeff went like 3 minutes. Come on.
We don't have any 6-minute Call of Duty run-throughs here.
Yeah, but hang on. I got to play this message from the Brock. Give me 1 second.
Sure, yeah. Check out this energy.
Yeah, GeekVerse edition.
Solus.
Yes.
Not exactly sure how it's pronounced, but this is another space-themed thriller horror game. This one, I think, out of all of them, we saw the least of in terms of footage. We didn't really see gameplay of it, kind of more just setting. And I think that's one of the things, too, where if you have so many of these games that are very similar, they start to blend in a bit. I think this was the one that was a little more red than the other ones.
It was, yeah.
Is how I would
I'm re-looking at
describe
them
it.
right now, yeah.
But other than that, I don't know if much stood out for me. And I guess, their big selling point for them was they brought a couple voice actors up, Troy Baker, very famous voice actor, and then the other guy, Roger. I don't know what his last name is. I'm not sure.
Roger Clark.
There you go, Roger Clark. Any thoughts on this one, Travis?
Arthur Clark was Arthur Morgan Roger Clark. He was Arthur Morgan in the Red Dead 2 game. That was his big thing. So it's funny. I had said this to Dylan offcast, but I'll retell it here. So I was watching in a location where I could not always have sound, but I had sound for the most part. But there was someone else in the room, so I had to turn it down. But I saw the teaser with sound. I was like, okay, this is looking cool. I heard Troy's voice. I'm like, okay, so. All looking good. You're right about it being the red thing. And then when I had to cut the sound out is when they started talking. I asked him oh, what did they say? Because I had to watch that. I went from work and then I saw Jurassic World review coming tomorrow. So I didn't get to rewatch it. And you told me there wasn't much, and that's kind of a bummer because that's what the teaser was. It looked intriguing, but it's just this space, red, Troy Baker, and famous voice actors and stuff like that. So I didn't get much from it. This could be a game of the year, all-time greater, or this could be a stinker that's going to release and we won't have any idea. I'd have to know who. I guess I'm forgetting who. The developers are they? Who are they that have? What have they worked on in the past? That would maybe another
let's
thing.
Google it. But I mean that was kind of what they were highlighting when they were upstage talking to me. Was they were like, oh yeah, it's smaller indie team. I haven't done too much, and so we're really excited to work with them on this ambitious project. So it was. I feel like it was just very. I have some thoughts on Troy Baker. I don't need to share, but I feel like sometimes he
Jared
has
Leto
big
vibes
ego in some ways. He also is an NFT peddler, so maybe not my favorite person, but
yeah. That's
but yeah, I don't know. It just felt like they didn't really sell the game for me in any way when they could have. And I'm looking at the Steam page right now, and there's some decent looking pictures here, but I just have so little to go off of but I do like space settings, so like I'm down for this.
You know
when
what
I
this
click on their developer thing on Steam, nothing else pops up. So maybe they've worked on stuff before, like the talent has. But at least from the studio, I think it's their first project.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to find, and it's very little. But you know what it felt like, and this is not it, because they're making the game. I'm sure it will come up, but it felt more like a Kickstarter, where it's kind of like,
Sure.
like remember whatever happened to Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Oh
You
my
know?
god, I keep forgetting about it.
I
Every
never
couple
forget.
Years I forget about it.
I never forget, because I just remember you made such a big deal, and we just laughed when it ended with like, and you can help us make the game, and we were
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've been like, did no one volunteer to make that game? I guess, and
Yeah,
I'm
we didn't
always,
get anyone. No one signed up.
because I'm not even lying. When it was the first few shots of this trailer was just like a door and stuff like that, and it was spacey. So I'm like, oh, maybe every time I see something spacey, I think, is this Beyond, or is this Beyond Good and Evil 2? Like, is this it? And it never is. It never is. The game does not exist anymore. But that's what it felt like, where they showed you like a concept tease, like, yeah, and if you go to our website and support right now, we'd love to make Fort Solace. Now again, they are making it, but there just wasn't enough here. It was just a concept, an idea, and I hope that idea turns into something great down the line. But
Apparently, this one is set on Mars, so maybe across all
Okay.
these games, we'll hit our entire solar system. That would be pretty cool.
what
All these
game's
space
gonna be
games.
set on the sun, Dylan? What game's gonna be set on the sun?
Oh God, that'd be pretty hard to do. I feel like that
Mhm.
would be quite blinding.
Maybe Midnight Suns, Ghost Rider, riding the bike. I feel like he can
I could
withstand
say
the
I could see
sun.
them visiting it. Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
you have like a whole game set on the sun though. Maybe on the inside, that'd be kind of cool.
Know what? People don't steal this from me. If I ever make a sci-fi movie, I want to make a villain who like has enough whatever. We'll figure out the reason. But if he has a base on the sun, that'd be badass, because you can't get to it. Like for some reason he can go there. That'd be awesome, right? Because
Well-
you can't attack him. He's at the sun. You know.
You got to check out Outer Wilds then. In that game, this civilization built this sun station, which it's not in the sun, but it like
Mhm.
orbits around the sun.
Oh.
And you can try and get there, but if you mess up, you just fly into the sun and blow up and die. So
Oh
it's pretty
really?
great.
Okay.
Yeah. There's another way to get there, so you got to figure
Okay,
out how to
it's
do
on the it is on the bucket list. It's on my
of the
Xbox,
all-time
like all
greats.
these games that are like I'm gonna get
Mhm.
to at some point. So
I don't think we have much else to say because they didn't really give us
Nope.
too much to work with. But that one is on my radar because I like the setting and visuals are good. So I'll maybe check it out in the future.
Mhm.
Sticking with the creepy or scary space themed games, and this one probably stood out to me the most. I mean, Callisto Protocol is great, but it was kind of a known variable. But Routine is the
Mhm.
name of this next one, where you're kind of creeping around a futuristic base, and there are some creepy looking robots that have kind of like what's the Will Smith movie with the robots?
iRobot.
Yeah, kind of like
Yeah.
iRobot sort of looking creatures a little bit.
Mhm.
But the thing that's really stood out to me about this one was it kind of has this found footage aesthetic to it.
Yes.
Both with this camera that you're pulling up, which does look like the quality of it looks like a VHS kind of
Like
quality.
a Blair Witch or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then the game also like kind of has these glitchy visuals that glitch in and out and have that aesthetic to it. So I really like this one because this one really stood out to me within that like similar setting and genre. So I'm pretty excited for this one. It was a short little gameplay sequence, so it's hard for me to know what the whole vibe of the game is. If it is more like strictly horror, or if it is you're hitting up like button panels and solving puzzles.
Yeah,
and
like, what is
flying your
it-
way through the space station.
what is the
We don't know
combat,
about
if there's
that.
any, and stuff like that?
Yeah,
like what is
exactly.
the attack or stuff? So
Yeah, because it looks like you're kind of powerless, and if they touch
Yeah.
you, you're dead. But who can say for sure?
no, I don't have much more to add, because I agree with everything you said. As I just referred to earlier, I love games like that Resident Evil 7 that came out. Like, I'm not saying that's what started, but just feel like since that game happened, I'm always wanting to get something that high again, because maybe near the back half, like, it gets a little wonky. But Resident Evil 7, like, if I were to make a list of games that are my favorite, it might be in there. So anytime it's like this, where it's like, okay, this one's in space, kind of has that found footage, like first person view, where he just has a scanner and he's looking at something, and then it's just like, some leather moves, and you're like, what was that?
Yeah.
That was just a draft. It's like, it could be tons of
Some
fun.
space leather. There's so much leather. In space.
yeah. So my only hang up, which I'm sure is fine, because that happens a lot of games, right? But they get the trailer, all looking great. Yeah, those things are looking like iRobot mixed with like some zombies going on. So I'm not sure if there's like some sort of space monster, something that's like a venom ooze that's affected these things. I don't know. But you get that, and then and I think this is where you're talking about the two of them being Canadians. And the only thing that worried me, which again, maybe I shouldn't worry, because game development works very differently. But when she's like, yeah, we first showed this 10 years ago, and we're really excited to bring it back. And I was like, 10 years. 10 years.
Yeah.
Like I had 0 kids 10 years ago. Like it's rare, again, talking about Beyond Good and Evil 2. It's like it's rare that a game is around for 10 years. And it's different when it's kind of like a franchise, like a Fable, right? Where it's like, oh, they keep trying, but it goes away because you go, okay, the reason developments keep trying is because they know there's a fan base for Fable.
Yeah.
They're going to keep trying to figure it out. Metroid, right? But for this very new IP with, not, I don't think any big studio behind it for 10 years, this better be a goddamn good game. Like, I don't know, like what happened, but at the end of the day, I was intrigued. So this is on the radar list. They didn't have a date for this, did they?
No, Steam page just says to be announced.
Okay.
And yeah, this is
So
also
10 years from now.
developer that, at least on Steam, I don't have any other games, published by Raw Fury, which have been like publishing a lot of really great games in the last couple years. I will say I've checked out a lot of their games. This one is set on the moon. So now we've hit Earth, Mars, and Jupiter. So let's keep a tally of this and see if we can hit the whole solar system tonight, Travis.
Yeah, that's pretty good. We're on a roll right now.
Oh, good stuff. The next part, oh my God. How do we start about this one? This next sequence had...
I just saw what was next.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Jeff Keighley says, I got my good friend here.
Yeah, good friend.
Let's see what he's up to. And then we get just a very classic iPhone selfie camera of Dwayne in his home. I assume it's his home gym because he probably has a lot of money. Maybe it's like a public gym. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what did he call it? Like the iron prison or something?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's where he bang clangs. That's what he does. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was very confused about like what was going to go on here. We get some like energy drink promotion. He's talking about stuff for like 2 minutes. I have no idea what he's talking about. Like S-Bubs I saw on our Discord was like, oh, he said the thing. I'm like, I have no idea what the thing is. I don't know what he's talking about. Flashes the energy drink again. And then we get the Black Adam trailer, which we don't got to break that down because you and Kirklin did that yesterday. So everyone should go back and listen to that.
And it came out yesterday. It wasn't even like a big premiere. It came out yesterday. It's the exact same trailer. The exact same one.
Yeah, and then I think he maybe got one more energy drink shot in there by the time it was all said and done. He had to hit the rule of 3, which is all video games follow that rule. But I just thought this was so weird because he's such a charismatic dude, but this was such an awkward and weird sequence. I got to hear what you thought about this one.
One, you have to tell me, S-Bub, in the chat what he said, because I didn't look at the Discord because my work is terrible. It blocks. I work for the government and they block Discord because they think it's like like porn or something. It's like it's just Discord stuff.
I guess you could share porn on Discord.
You could. So that's probably some guy did it and now it's all taken away Discord. But so everyone knows I'm wearing a wrestling shirt right now. I'm wearing the Undertaker. I love professional wrestling. In the 90s, Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, Undertaker, like these were my childhood heroes. These are people I watched weekly, like many times. He said, the hierarchy, right? He always says that the hierarchy of the DC is about to change. That's his whole thing. And it's kind of like a meme now because he said so much. But so I love The Rock. And he's been through ups and downs, wrestler star, and to, doing the Tooth Fairy to the biggest star in the world. I love The Rock, but I think what's happening these past few years, unfortunately, he's in this very self-promote. He's always been a self-promoter, but I think he's almost got into it too much where there's that level of
him and Jeff Keighley are made for each other then.
Well, yeah. There's this part of it could be parody, but he doesn't get it. Like he's not in on the joke. And I feel like at one point he was in on the joke. And I feel like he's gone to that point. And I just laughed when it's just like, Rock, how you doing? And I know. I'm sitting here. I know The Rock. It's going to throw to some pre-recorded video. And it doesn't feel natural. And like, I get it. Like, I appreciate this guy. I get it. If I looked like him, maybe I have my shirt off all the time too. Because again, he's worked very hard for his physique. But it's just weird that he's in his gym and he has his shirt off. And it's just like, this doesn't make any sense here. Why are you showing off? And to me, this is almost just like his manager texts him and be like, hey, you got to record that thing for that Summer Games Fest. Like, oh, right. And then he just pulled it up.
And you better throw the energy drink in there.
That was because if you don't know that he owns that energy drink. I'm sure you know that by now, but that's why. So the thing is, he's promoting the foundation, whatever. He's in Fortnite coming up. Cool, whatever. Like I don't play Fortnite, but that's good for Fortnite. He promotes that. He promotes the drink and the movie. This is where if I was Keighley, I would say like, You get 1 to 2 of those things. You don't need all of them. And at that point, you go, oh, is it? Because you might be like, oh, The Rock, is it worth it? The Rock will bring in a few extra people to this event, but most of the people tuning this are the gamers. And most people, and S-Bubs, I know you're a Fortnite fan, so I'm not crapping you. They're not tuning in because The Rock is going to have a crossover with Fortnite. And this is where, that's where it hurts. One, it hurts The Rock because it makes him just look kind of just very arrogant. It's almost like you're just, talking about certain people. And he is teetering in that like Jared Leto category of just kind of pretentious and just like my drink here. And again, even if you're going to do it, he should make some sort of joke about it, but he doesn't. Like, he makes a little joke, but then he keeps promoting the Zoe, and he keeps and then like to Black Adam. Again, I would understand if Black Adam, if this was the premiere of the trailer, because this would be good. No, The Rock did that himself yesterday on his Instagram, so like that's nothing. So it sucks on the Rock level because it just makes him look less relatable. And here's my fourth wall break again. Of course, we promote our stuff. We do ads. We always do that, right? The difference is The Rock is a multi-million, like The Rock does not need to promote his energy drink here. It is going to be fine. This man bought a football league last year. He has money for days. We're trying to build a brand, and every money we make goes back into the show. Our time with The Rock, he doesn't need to promote Black Adam, man. He doesn't need to do that. And that's on the flip side as well with Keeley. This is where I think he will look, and maybe someone will go, hey, or even he will go, hey, that was maybe too much. I think this might have been reaching the threshold of ads, and this was the antithesis of that, because this whole thing felt like a parody. It felt like you were watching Tropic Thunder, where a celebrity was doing that as a joke, or SNL, but it was real life. It was happening. And one, it sucks that The Rock's doing that, because I think he's not getting it. And two, Keeley, it's just, I don't think The Rock's worth it, because I think it sours people. I think that's like kind of shameless self-promotion. It's the whole event was fine up until that point, but that's where it really took me like a turn. Like, okay,
definitely.
It feels just more. You got to promote some stuff, and man, that energy drink was just brutal.
I mean, you're right that there is a Fortnite component to this thing, but like we never see the game, and he's not talking about that for much of it. So
he just dropped that he's the foundation. That's all he said.
Yeah. So why are we doing this, Jeff? Like, this is not a video game related thing. And
No.
if these shows become Summer Fest and it's just like whatever random hodgepodge like marketing shit he wants to throw in there, then like that's the day that I stop watching these live. Is like, I like watching movie trailers, but like when I come to a gaming showcase, I don't want to see this like trailer for a comic book movie. Like, get that out of here.
Well, and I feel like, and again, E3 announced this week, like, oh, we're coming back next year with people. It's like, okay, I'll believe that when I see it. I think E3's, I won't say dead, but pretty much on life support now. But in those later few years, it wasn't all of them, but when we harken back to like the Ubisoft of when they bring out the producers of Assassin's Creed and they talk about the movie, those were some of like the worst times of E3 for, I think, us and other people, where it's just like, I'm not here for that. And I'm a huge Matt. I talk about movies majority of my life. I love movies. I don't want to see Black Adam here at all, and honestly I don't really want to see The Rock here at all, because I don't think it brought anything in. I think it's different if it's like next year and it's Rock with a crowd of people. That's a lot different. You give the audience something, oh, The Rock's here, it's fun. But if it's just this YouTube or this iPhone recorded gym video with his shirt off and him just promoting a bunch of stuff, it makes the event just feel corporate. And I think what Keeley had good going for him is he was like an underdog, right? But I said this to you in the Discord, where now that E3's kind of gone, he might not have competition, and that's what's going to maybe suck, because he can kind of coast like this. And if he's the only game in town that's going to do these big events now, he can do this. And even if the show gets rated C's and D's, it doesn't matter, because we made the money and we got The Rock and we popped somebody tuned in for The Rock. But I just don't think it's that many of people that tuned in for The Rock there. And like S-Bub says, because S-Bub's a massive Fortnite fan, they promote like the whole segment. It felt like it was an afterthought. It felt like not that The Rock was embarrassed using it, but just like, oh yeah, I'm doing that thing, it's gonna be great. And then moved on to The Rock, and it's like, all right.
Do you think Jeff knew about the fact that he was going to talk about his energy drink? I feel like he just kind of did that. I don't think Jeff necessarily knew that was going to happen, and he kind of just had to roll with the footage that he got because of contracts and stuff. But I almost
you could
feel
edit
bad
that
for him.
though.
I don't know.
You could edit that for instead of Keeley trying to do, because I hate when people do this, try and do this whole like, oh, The Rock's joining us live. We know he's not live. We know this is pre-recorded. So just say, hey, we've sent a message from The Rock, and then you can chop. Now, maybe The Rock won't be happy about that, and maybe that's the thing. So I honestly do think he knew about it. I think they said, if I'm going to do this, the energy drink has to be in there, because I'm sure The Rock and his people are like, oh, gamers, they love energy drinks, and it's going to be perfect marketing. Like the whole world drinks
Yeah.
energy drinks, you know? So I think he did know about it because The Rock to me would have that all. He'd have it so you couldn't edit that out or edit
Mhm.
around it because I would just get the highlights of what he said and move on. You know, even the
Yeah.
Black Adam, that's why same thing. Keely's not just going to play the Black Adam trailer. That was definitely in the contract. Like, hey, you're playing the trailer for my movie that's coming out in October, you know?
Sure.
So, yeah.
Let's talk about some video games.
Yes, thank
you. Next game up. I don't think this is necessarily a Travis game, but I wanted to shout it out. This is called Stormgate, and this is from I guess some ex-Blizzard devs, and it's an RTS, very StarCraft-y. So it looks like they split off from Blizzard and they want to make their own version of StarCraft, which I'm down with. I'm curious to see more of the game. They said that in 2023 they're going to do a beta of some sort. I don't know if it was closed or open, but we'll see more gameplay then. They showed some snippets here. I got to say that the actual visuals of it were a bit generic to me. Like the races that they showed, this like we're showing two factions today. One of them was like humans with mechs, and then the other one was like demons. So I just feel like, okay, you're kind of just copying the start. Like I wonder if the third faction is going to be the like high tech like aliens, just like in StarCraft. But
Yeah.
I'm down for an RTS, a new RTS game. I'm curious to see more of this one. Yeah, we didn't get too much here, but I will say that of all the people on stage, I feel like this guy, and sorry I don't have his name written in my notes, but I feel like he was actually the best in terms of he talked about the game. He kind of gave you an idea. From the CGI trailer, I didn't know what was going on in terms of what this game was going to be.
Not at all. Yeah.
But now I have a very good idea of exactly what this game is going to be. Because he just explained it well, and he was just nerding out, and that's what I love to see. He was just nerding out about his game that he's so happy about. So I liked this segment, and this game is on my radar. And I think they said free to play. They specified that no like microtransaction or at least no pay to win aspect of it. No NFTs. He also name dropped that. I don't know if Troy Baker backstage was like angry when he heard that. But so I mean, it's free to play, open beta, whatever it is. I'm gonna be checking this game out for sure, just to see how it is. So
just Troy Baker, that fucker. But yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. That it's not much for me. It was the whole time the cutscene I was trying to figure out. Okay, what is this? What type of game is this? I agree with you that now that I know what it is. At first, if I thought like that cutscene was gonna be reminiscence of what the whole game would look like, I was like, this is looking like a little older, like a not really current and whatnot, but it makes sense now. So hopefully it finds an audience. But yeah, didn't grind my gears at all. I guess grinding gears is a bad thing. Didn't warm up the gears, you know. So
yeah. Then we got a couple indie games here that I personally really like the look of. First one is called High Water. It's coming out this year, though we don't have an actual date or month. This game I thought looked really interesting. I don't know exactly what the gameplay is, but essentially you are. I don't know if it's like a global warming story, but it essentially looks like the world is overflowing with water, and so people have just moved to these tops, like these little pieces of land that are floating above just the open ocean. But it's not like an extinction or anything like that. There is people all over the place. There's little settlements of colonies built up, live in different places, and you're kind of cruising around on your boat with your friends. And I don't know what you're doing. I don't know if you're solving puzzles, but it kind of had a bit of a Wind Waker vibe in terms of maybe a bit of the cartooniness of it, but also how you're just kind of cruising around, checking stuff out. So this looks really cool. I want to see a little bit more of like what the actual gameplay is. Like I want to see what like a 5-minute gameplay sequence looks like. But I'm definitely interested in this. I think this is a good showing for it, and yeah, I'm interested.
yeah, you hit everything I would say there. All I would just stress again, because I looked at it again, I love the art style. It's really cool because it does seem Wind Wakery, but it just seems a bit more. It sounds weird, but like a Bob Ross painting in a way, like the colors, how they're just popping certain just light colors and everything. So this is one that I'll wait to hear if Dylan really likes it, and then I'll add it to my Games Pass list. And then when I retire, because I just got my mail today and I found out how much I'll be making when I'm 66. So that's, or 60 when I retire. So when I retire, I'm going to have this long list of games, and this one could be on it. But yeah, it looked very, I won't say fun, but just... It did interest me enough where I went, okay, like I said, if Dylan has some high praise for it, maybe one day I'll plug it in.
If you played in 60 years, maybe that's what our Earth will look like, and it'll be very immersive. So
oh, God. Yeah, I won't be able to play then. It's going to be, my console's going to be flown. I'll never find remotes then. I can barely find them now, so.
It was a vision to the future. So yeah, coming out this year. I'm looking forward to that one. And then another one that I think you might be into this one, even though you're not a big indie game guy necessarily, but American Arcadia, which is very interesting. It looks like you're kind of in this, I guess, idealistic, this oh wait, what's the word I'm looking for with like the utopia? That's what I'm looking for. You're kind of in this utopian world where everything's perfect, everyone's happy and just living their luxurious life and all that. But then they add the layer on of kind of the Truman Show effect where
Yeah.
everyone is recorded at all time, filmed at all time, and I guess your character is wanting to escape this world or this city or who knows exactly what's going on there in terms of what the setting is.
Mhm.
But it looks fun. It looks like you're maybe doing some stealth, just kind of escaping and going through this world, learning about this place. So I thought it looked really good. I really liked the vibe of it. It was a bit weird that the the characters didn't have any noses, so it like kind of looked very strange. But I thought this looked really cool.
Oh
I
yeah,
wanna
you're
check it out.
right. Yeah, noseless world. That's maybe that's how he's gonna figure out. He's gonna see a picture of somebody, be like why they have nose and stuff like that. But no, you hit the nail on the head with like the Truman Show as far as that type of feel and everything. And obviously this is like a whole different comparison, but it reminded me the first time I saw We Happy Few. I never played We Happy. Did you ever play We Happy Few?
Never did. I think it's
I think it's on Game
so I
Pass.
gotta
Yeah,
check
I
it
should
out.
plug it in one day because I remember loving that trailer and being like, "Oh, but it's on Xbox." So you know what? Maybe I'm gonna make that a mission. Strikers is out, so not this weekend, but in the future. But it looked like that where just the plot and like the log line of like the pitch intrigued me, and then they showed again arts. Really like I like just lots of the landscapes in the world, like looking at this like almost studio audience sort of deal. So yeah, it's same thing of like it's on the I wouldn't say the radar, but it's on the keeping an eye on. You know, that's a little bit different.
Definitely. I'm gonna skip ahead slightly for a specific reason, but let's talk about TMNT Shredder's Revenge, which this game I don't think until today had an actual release date. And the
No,
release date is next week, so that's
Mhm.
pretty cool. I like that. It wasn't quite the out today, but they were toying with it because it said available and they're like
Yeah.
slowly unveiling it. But next week is a pretty damn good release date. I guess the reveal today was that this game has 6-player co-op, which is really cool, and they also showed off a new character. And I'm not a TMNT guy; I don't even know his name. He seemed like a kind of a generic dude, but whatever. Like another character you can play with. I think there's, I guess, the 4 turtles and then 3 other people you can play as now.
Yeah.
So pretty good roster, or maybe it's just the 6, and that would make sense for the 6-player co-op. Or
they could because I think they showed Casey Jones and maybe April
I don't know if you can
O'Neil.
play as the rat guy. I thought you could, but maybe he's just like leading you through the levels.
What is his name? I can't remember because
We haven't
I like
really talked about TMNT much. Are you a TMNT guy at all?
I like it, but I've never like this. Like people are gonna look at me and be like, "You host this podcast." I couldn't tell you their names as far as like I know the names, but I couldn't tell you which one's which. You know, so that yeah, I think Espos is right about April, Casey
Right.
Jones, 4 Turtles. But yeah, what the hell's that rat name? But yeah, I've always liked it. I watched those live action movies back in the day. It's definitely I feel like what happened is it's a franchise that was built for Travis, but it just wasn't on that channel when I was watching it. Like that's right. It's just one of those I missed. But every time I look at like, no, this is right up my alley. But this game I don't think I'll be getting. It's just I have played these before. Splinter. That's what we were talking about there. The rat, the guy. But I've played some of these like the older ones in Scandi and stuff like that. Always had a fun time. I loved that arcade era of this and X-Men and stuff like that and Power Rangers. So this is a classic, maybe Games Pass game one day. But I'm really happy for the fans because it does have a really loyal fan base. And every time I see this just looks like, man, lots of fun for them. So
Yeah, I'm looking up the price because I'm pretty sure it is a little bit less than a regular game.
And you get a lot in there. Like the multiplayer is great, but also just like what they're offering.
I thought it was less. I can't seem to find it with a quick Google search, but we'll see. I think it is. I think I saw that somewhere that it is a bit lower price. I'm not a TMNT guy at all, but I just love the art in this game in particular. I've been doing a lot of pixel art the last year, and I just want to get this game just to like study it. Like there is like just the details, the colors. It looks fucking amazing. So I think this is a day one for me, even though I'm, like I said, not into the franchise in any way.
Wow.
But I love the look. I don't even really like the genre, but I just love the art so much that I'm buying it just off of that. So I will report back on my thoughts on this game because
there you
I'll
go.
be playing it next week. So I'll have
Yeah.
some thoughts in a couple weeks on that one. And with that, let's take our second ad break here. And we got just a few more things to talk about today. Okay, we are back. Next up, Midnight Suns. We both, when we did our predictions, we both expected to see this game here. Been a lot of leaks about it lately with a potential October release date, which is the case. I think it's the first week of October. I didn't actually write
October 2nd. Yeah.
2nd. Okay, there you go. So right at the start of October. I gotta say I was a little bit let down by the what they showed here because it was just a cinematic, and I wanted like a little bit more of a sizzle reel of some gameplay stuff. But then I also saw that a bunch of different gaming channels, your IGNs and GameSpots of the world, they all got, I guess, had access to a preview recently, and they all just put up a bunch of footage today. So there's tons of gameplay out there. You can watch like entire levels and a bunch of other things as well. So definitely a lot of gameplay out there. Just wasn't necessarily in the Summer Game Fest showcase. We got to see some more characters, a new playable character. What are you thinking about this game now that we've seen another nice cinematic here?
Yeah, it's tough because I honestly expected just a cinematic because I think this was kind of get it back on the map. Like they had big showcases and a big rollout last year, and then it got the brakes pumped. Like, okay, it's not coming out right now. We're getting delayed a bit. So this kind of felt like the second welcome party of, here's the game, here's some players. I think they're adding the right characters as far as you got Spider-Man, more importantly Venom. I think Venom fits in here. Obviously, I think you're gonna be the same thing as me. Wanda is that's the perfect one to add there.
She's in the game. I think she's playable. We haven't seen that, but
yeah,
she's definitely in the game. And she was like on the show. I saw in one of the previews that they said that Wanda is both a playable character and a villain, like at times. So maybe depending on your choices, she'll switch to an evil, or you can save her, or something like that. I'm not sure, or just like, no matter what choices you make, she at some point turns over. But it sounds like she's in there for sure. So pretty badass roster.
Well, and I would hope so too, because that new cover art they showed is her with the other heroes as well too. So I think if you had a bunch of heroes playable and then you had her who's not playable, that's kind of disappointing. So I like that. There's rumors because there was an IGN video that I think it was IGN, maybe I'm misquoting, but Esbubs put in the Discord where one of the people playing said that Moon Knight was in it. Now we don't know if that was a misspoke. That's another character. Like, man, if we got one of Moon Knight, this game's great. So I thought the showcase was smart. I think this is my conspiracy theory. I think the reason they're not showing some of that off because they know a lot of people won't go looking for the gameplay, and I'm excited to talk to you if you got to see some because I want to look into it. But since they've shown that off, there's definitely been like a drop of hype that's gone from this game because I think people were not really digging the card system. So I honestly think there's part of it where, okay, they're going to show that off to the hardcore people that are going to watch these videos, but when they're going to preview it mainstream, you're not going to see much of that because I think they want to get people, I think that card system is turning a lot of people off to the point of they won't buy it, or at least for a $60 to $80 pop. So I am, because I'm willing to try it. It's the same thing when I saw the card thing. I was like, I wasn't bummed out, but I was taken aback when, okay, that's the route we're going. And it looked like, I won't say clunky, but just a little like, okay, this looks like it might not be the world's funnest thing to play. But at the same point, as I've just talked about this cast, I'm playing Call of Duty. Elden Ring is one of my favorite games of all time, and that was a franchise, a genre that I thought, I looked at it, I'm never going to touch that. That's not for me. So that's why, one, of course, I'm buying it because like the Marvel thing, but I'm buying it because I'm willing to give that a chance because this could open up a world of other games and genres that I really, really like and dabble into. But I think they're kind of hiding it because most people it's so funny between that and Gotham Knights. I feel like they started so strong with the hype, but Gotham Knights looking very similar to Avengers has made people scared, and then that card system has made people scared of Midnight Sun. So I'm really curious how these games are going to sell because I think that they won't sell as low as Guardians, but I think they might be in that ballpark because I feel like the hype is dying on both of them. But I'll be there for both of them. It's going to be a busy, expensive month. That October 2nd is this, and then less than 3 weeks later is Knights. But so did you get to watch some of that gameplay?
I did. I checked out maybe 4 or 5 different videos, and a couple of them were longer, so I just kind of skimmed through them. And yeah, I was curious because a couple of weeks ago I saw some rumors or just some talk that after showing some gameplay last September, it's been so long now, that they've tweaked some stuff and changed some stuff around.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any of that really when I watched these gameplay videos. It looks the same, which for me, I'm into it. Like, I love strategy games. I love Marvel. Like, I love the roster they have here and all that. The cards, I got to see it in action. But, it is weird when I watch gameplay for this. It's not that exciting, but that's not like for example, I've been playing Into the Breach again lately, which is very similar in that it is smaller levels, turn-based, grid-based strategy, all that same thing. And it also has that limited character roster. You have 3 characters at a time in that game. and enemies can be up to similar like this, like somewhere between like 2 to 5 enemies usually on screen. And that's my favorite strategy game ever because it is kind of small, condensed, and you can think through all the options. So yeah, if anyone is to watch me play Into the Breach, it's not interesting because I'm just sitting there for 5 minutes and my brain is firing off all these neurons. I'm thinking about all these different things, but to watch it is like it kind of sucks to watch. It's not a good game to show. So I think that might just be one of the struggles they have. Anyone when I'm watching these 30-minute video of someone like doing the Venom boss fight, and it's like, watching like paint drying. But when you're playing the game, I'm hoping that it is like the mechanics are really solid. There's a lot to think about, that you're just always thinking about these fun ways you can interact with the environment, how you can use your different abilities. You're going to get kind of random set of moves. Obviously, you can like pick your deck in a way, but you're going to get random moves. So you're going to have to every turn think on the fly. And that's all really exciting for me. Like, I think this game, I totally understand why people would not be into that gameplay if you're expecting more of an Ultimate Alliance kind of gameplay thing, and that's what you want from Marvel. So I understand people's disappointment, but for me, like, I'm super into this. I'm very, very excited for it, and especially like the new characters they show off today. And then in those gameplay videos, maybe less than the gameplay, the thing that really did it for me was just how the people who played the game were talking about it, and how they said, man, like the RPG systems here are really fucking in-depth and really good.
Yeah, I can't wait for that.
And you can't do everything in one playthrough. Like, you cannot become best friends with everyone. Some people might leave your party, or I don't know if they'd leave your party, but they might be mad at you or might not want to work with you. You can only get them to a certain level because you can't do everything in one playthrough. You got to really pick and how you upgrade your characters and all this stuff. And, like, I guess going around that home base that you have, like, that part of it works really well. And so all that stuff, like, sounds amazing to me. Like, this has everything in the pot to make, like, a delicious stew. So I cannot wait to check it out. I'm very, very excited for this. And even though this showcase demonstration wasn't great, even just hearing some more preview thoughts on it and thinking and seeing a couple of these leaked characters like Moon Knight, like, hell yeah, I'm so down for this game. I could not be more excited.
Well, and that's the big thing you said about, for me, choices mattering. That's a huge selling point, because we've talked about
comparing it to like Mass Effect and stuff like that in terms of how the party members' interactions work.
Oh, well, that's even better for me, because Mass Effect, the reason I got into Mass Effect is because people compared it to Knights of the Old Republic, and that was the game that that was like the first game I played. I've talked about before that I made these choices that really matter. When you're talking about Wanda, there's a Jedi Knight of Old Republic where it's a Sith and you meet her in the woods, and it can go so many routes where you could fight her to the death. You can actually turn her to the light side in this conversation and recruit her and everything like that. And that's the stuff I really, really love. That's some of the stuff I liked in the Telltale games where, yeah, you could actually lose a character here. Now, it sucks sometimes when the endpoint's the same and everything, so we'll see how much it goes that route. But I love that stuff of, yeah, you might have a better relationship. You might not be able to take them on a mission, because that makes you think, okay, what do I want to say here? Where you have something, remember Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, where you could have like the diplomatic answer, the whatever answer, but it's like all it did was give you like a little bit of a stat boost here. It really didn't matter if you told like Captain America he was an asshole or not, right? So, and even when you chose to side between Cap and Iron Man, the missions were like a little different, but not really. So that stuff sounds great. So,
yeah, I'm very excited for this. I gotta ask you what you think about some of these costumes. So obviously they have these. Well, one of the villains I forget what the word they use for it is, but essentially like the Demon Queen lady transforms them. So like Venom has like horns coming out of his head, and Sabretooth is just looking wild.
And so Hulk, they had a Hulk there. I think it was Hulk that was looking demonic and stuff. So
what do you think about the look of those villains? And like, as a big comic book guy, like, have you ever seen Venom look like that? Do you not like that, or are you kind of down for them to take their own spin on it?
No, I'm down for that, because especially too, because you got to find, okay, you're going to have your boss fights, but then you kind of got to up the ante, right? And with, like, what's her name? Is it Lilith, right? Is that who we're fighting?
That's it,
Yeah. I think that fits with the game. One thing I will say about the showcase, which I absolutely love that they're leading into, that they had Master of Puppets from Metallica. I love that they're just leading into, this looks heavy metal, like the character designs, everything. It just looks kick-ass, like 80s. Almost like gives me what Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness had, where it's just like, this looks fucking just like very cool, very kind of I won't say it is comic booky, but just very loud in the best way possible. So when I see these villains popping up, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So I think you'll have these boss fights, and then maybe you'll have like them boss fights when they're kind of upgraded. You'll probably have situations where you're gonna maybe fight like an evil Doctor Strange or like something like that, right? We kind of just got that with Multiverse of Madness. So nope, I'm completely down for that, especially in these video games. It's like let's have some fun, let's change it up a bit, and it could pose for some interesting content.
Mm-hmm. And they also had like I guess a pre-order bonus for this Doctor Strange skin, so I want to shout that out because
Defender Strange, I think it was, right?
Defender's skin. Is that what you said?
Yeah, because it looks similar to what he had when he rocked Defenders, which is like a older Doctor, like not older, but like it's more when he's doing this type of stuff. That's what I'll say.
What did you think about Spider-Man's costume?
I've seen so much debate about it, right? And to me, I don't mind it. Like, I guess here's the other thing, because we're getting the Spider-Man game. We have so many costumes. If they want to take something that would be really wild, yes, the eyes just look like big bug eyes, sure. There's times where I see it and I go, yeah, it looks kind of meh, or kind of lame. But then there's other times where I see it, you know what? I kind of like this look. So all these heroes have these different looks. So honestly, I was fine with it. But I know it's been big contention when that photo leaked, that it's been like, I think, memed on quite a bit. But I'm honestly fine with it in this game. I am, because this is why he's in a different realm. So give him something that matches, you know?
Yeah, I know you can unlock costumes. Obviously, they've had 2 pre-order ones, or I think the Blade one you just had to like sign up for their mailing list or something. But
yeah,
I wonder. I hope you can change between those at any time, like, or because it seems like the Spider-Man one, because we saw him in just a regular suit as well, and so I don't know if it's like a story reason that he changes into this one, but hopefully you can choose between them. I didn't I don't know. I got to see it in action, I guess, but to me, I don't know, he had some like tinfoil spikes on the side, and I was like not necessarily into that. So I got to see more of that. Anything else on Midnight Suns? I think this might be like. Maybe it might even be my most anticipated game for the rest of the year, at least, unless something else gets announced. I'm looking forward to Hogwarts Legacy. Trying to think what else.
Right, Hogwarts Legacy. Yeah, that's definitely number 1 for me. Hogwarts Legacy, if it comes this year, because that just looks so much fun. Yeah, I still have Knights over this a little bit, but it's just because like. I'm a huge Batman guy. One of those characters, like I named my daughter after one of those characters. All I want to say about Gotham Knights is I was very disappointed. Okay, they showed Dick have some different costumes. That's cool, great. There's a couple of them looking wonky. But what I was really disappointed from this, and just from everything in general, I feel like they're not showing off a lot of villains, which it's again feels similar to the Avengers problem that you and I had, that you have a whole whack of villains and it's just like, no, you got to fight Abomination again, you got to fight this guy, like when you play those villain events. And I worry that it's gonna, I know we've seen Mr. Freeze in the Court of Owls, and I know with the Court of Owls it's a huge amount of characters, but most of them are pretty similar. So I just worry that it's gonna be Avengers that way too, where there's not many of these like DC, but Batman alone has a plethora of villains that you could just pull from, and I feel like we're not seeing that, which is a little disappointing to me. I thought we were gonna have some, when we first saw that game, I thought, oh, we're gonna have some fun here, and they've played it pretty safe. So
yeah, I think that's actually just in general something that a lot of comic book games struggle with, is having interesting enemy types. Like I just feel like the variety is not necessarily there. You're just gonna get a lot of humanoid people and like different riot gear, essentially,
which is
like
strange,
ends up being 90% of the enemies, which is the same for Midnight Suns.
Yeah,
it's the same for most of these games.
It's so strange.
A bit of a bummer. Like,
comic books have so many different type of enemy types, between aliens, monsters, mutants, criminals, assassins. Like there's so much out there, and yeah, you just always get a very similar. But you know, what you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? Was there anything else you wanted to mention on Gotham Knights? Because
no,
like they showed a little bit more, but I don't think I have anything to add based off.
I'm happy there's different costumes. Cool. You know, I'm excited. I'm always excited. Every superhero game that is like what costumes you got? You know, like that. That's a good thing.
Me and Taylor, when we talked about, I think they had like a trailer. It wasn't even last week, but. Is it Batwoman or Batgirl in this game?
It's Batgirl in this game. Batgirl and Batwoman are 2 different characters.
Right.
Yeah.
So she's the character that from gameplay I've seen, to me looks like she has the most fun moveset, and like I feel like she has not been shown at all lately. So I think that's maybe why my hype level for this game is just like going down.
Yeah.
But when I did watch a clip of her, I was like, that looks really fun. So I don't know. I honestly just these last couple times I've seen the game really took it from like, oh, I think I'll probably check this out to I don't see myself picking this up. Just looks
Yeah.
kind of bland, but yeah, maybe her moveset's so fun and that's all I need, but we'll see.
Yeah, for me, Nightwing is probably gonna be my main. So the fact that he's been in most of the marketing, I'm like, okay,
Great.
that works for me. But yeah, this is a day one. We'll definitely be. I think Taylor's gonna get it too. So if you don't get it, we'll definitely be dropping some sort of review. And I'm excited to see what this studio can do. Like Fresh News talking about in 24/7 there. If it is an Avengers clone, I like Avengers, but not exactly what I was wanting. But we'll see.
Next up, a couple more smaller games. Then we only have only 3 more games to talk about here. Nightingale. I want to mention this one. This is another it's a genre that we've seen 100 times in the last decade. But resource gathering, first-person game where you're going around collecting stuff, building up your town and village and all that. But I just wanted to shout out because all that stuff that they showed looked really great. Like one, visually, it looks fantastic. The part of building up your village, building up your town, city, whatever it is, it seemed like a lot of NPCs come around, so you kind of get these thriving villages. And then just the monster designs, I thought were just very creative and a lot of fun. And yeah, it just looked like a really solid game. So I think we've seen this one before as well.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
But it was fun to see it again. It's coming along nicely, and it's this one's definitely still on my radar. I don't really play a lot of these kinds of games. Usually, I always think they look fun, but I guess I just don't have the crew of friends who are wanting to play them with me. So that's probably why I don't check them out as much. But this one might be the one that I jump into. Anything you want to add on this one?
No, I know. I just feel bad because I'm part of that problem. Because I think they showed this at the Game Awards. That's when we talked about it, and I think it was the exact same thing where you were positive on it. I'm not negative on it. I just every time I see it, it's okay, it looks cool. I have no interest.
We've seen the genre 100 times. Yeah,
I
totally get it.
Yeah, it just hasn't. This hasn't been the one. Hasn't waved the flag of that's what I'm going to check out. So, but I hope it does well for the team.
Yep. Okay, Layers of Fears, which I think the first game was called Layer of Fear, and then I think it was Layers of Fear, and now it's Layers of Fears. Maybe I'm adding one more game that actually exists, or maybe
I didn't even know this
is
a sequel, so this is news to me.
Yeah, it's definitely okay, was it Layer of Fear?
I'm gonna find out for you. You can keep talking. I'll find out.
Yeah, I think it was Layers of Fear, and now it's Layers of Fears. Which, if that is the case, not rolling off my tongue in particular. No. But yeah, I think there's been 2 other games, and these ones have always been chilling on my Steam wish list, and I always see them, and they go on sale for very cheap. I'm like, I should pick that up, and then I just never do. And so I guess maybe the one reason I wanted to bring this up is because one, it's a kind of it looks like a horror game we've seen a lot in the past, but I wanted to bring this up because this is from Bloober Team, who recently did The Medium, which came out last year. And there's been a lot of rumors swirling that this team is the one that was working on Silent Hill.
Yeah.
So this is, I guess, this soft confirmation that is not the case, or maybe they're also working on that or something. But I'm going to go ahead and say that this kind of tells me that they're probably not working on Silent Hill. But yeah, what do you think about this one, Travis?
One about Silent Hill, you just gotta love. Oh, Kojima's doing a game. No, he's not. These guys are doing a game. Yeah. No, he's not. Silent Hill is
random studio that we've heard all those words. Yeah.
Silent Hill is just this, the everlasting game that someone's working on it, but no one really is. So yeah, the first game was Layers of Fear, and then they made a second game called Layers of Fear 2, which was published in 2019. And now you are correct. This is Layers of Fears, and you're also correct, and that is a terrible, terrible title. So there you go, complete news to me, because I thought, is this coming just to Steam then, Layers of Fears, or is this also, because I would
say this one's probably going to come to console.
I thought I saw Xbox at least on there, because
the Medium was the Medium was closely tied to Xbox. It was on Game Pass at day one. It's not an Xbox studio, but they closely aligned their marketing with them. So I can see them. I definitely see them doing console again because of that.
Yeah, I don't think this was it, but I know there was one game that I was semi-interested in, but then it also said Games Pass, day one or something. I was like, okay, that goes up, because at least I'll just try it out. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I, out of the blue, did not know anything about this series or franchise. Thought this was a great trailer. Now, it reminded me a lot of The Evil Within, where that game a few years ago, I loved the trailer, but never played the game, because once I saw it, I went, okay, it was first person. But now, again, I've been more in that genre. Again, Resident Evil 7 kind of spoke up. I don't know if this was Layers of Fear, a first person game. I imagine it was. Yeah. So, which is fine. That's not a really a turn off to me with this. So I thought the imagery was great. It hooked me in. It looked very immersive. So this is one that's like higher on the radar. This is one now. I don't know where that first game is. If it is on like a Games Fast or something, I'm probably going to go check it out. Like I'm going to look into it, but this trailer left an impression on me. Like if I was to give up my like game of the show, that'd probably be like this or the Callisto Protocol. That's because I was on State of Play. But these are the ones that like really interest me as far as, okay, they're, like I said, checking the multiple boxes of the games Travis likes and is interested in right now, because I love being creeped out, and this just, I love the imagery. So, you know, can't wait.
Yeah, sounds good. I think it looks good as well. To me, it definitely looks like a step up from the medium, just in terms of visual fidelity. So I think that's a big thing. Like for these horror games, the more realistic they are, the scarier they are.
Absolutely,
is like a pretty good correlation. So the last game, well, I guess you could say the last segment of the show, because there's kind of 3 things to talk about here.
The last segment?
Yeah, there you go. I didn't even think about that. It's perfect. The Last of Us closes it out here. So they brought Neil Druckmann up on stage, and he was there for a while. They talked about a lot of stuff. The first one being that what they originally talked about with Last of Us Part 2 having its multiplayer. He talked about how that has really grown over the last, I guess, couple of years, because the game came out around 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
So it's now grown into its own thing, and he said it's a huge game. It's about the size of a Last of Us game. It is, I guess, there's a story to it, so I don't know if it's a co-op situation you're going through, or if it is, because the Last of Us Survivors, I think is what it was called, or
on the first one, yeah.
Yeah, well, or whatever that was called. Like, that was more of a competitive multiplayer thing, right?
Yeah, and I didn't dabble much too in it. I think I went in there for a little bit. I was like, nah, this is just not what I need. But this does sound a bit more, I don't think it's going to be that. It sounds more robust. It's just a question of how much robust is it, you know?
Well, I think it's going to be robust enough for them to justify it as a full-priced game.
1,000%. 1,000%.
A big, I think, reason why they went down this route, where, when we first heard that, okay, Last of Us Part 2 is coming out, and then we're going to do the multiplayer thing at some point. And then we saw what happened with Ghost of Tsushima. I was like, oh, I wonder, are you going to do the same thing there, where they drop this multiplayer a few months later? You could check it out. No, this is probably going to be a full-price game. Or, maybe this is something they want. Maybe this is the kind of game they'd put on a PS Plus, on their higher tier or something like that.
There's a chance.
Maybe it fits in there.
Like, it depends how big it is, but there's a chance that, they did release some of those Uncharted kind of mini games or whatever, like the add-on stories that were like the halfway $40 to $50 and stuff. So I could see the potentially of that route, but again, Last of Us, big names, I can see the full price happening.
If that is the case, they didn't really go too hard about selling it, because they only had one image of concept art to show to promote it. So, like, what have they been doing for 2 years? I have no idea. But I guess it's definitely, even though I don't get it. How do you not have something to show?
I think they do, but I think if you look at how he conducts himself, I'm speaking of Neil Druckmann, I should say, how he conducts himself online, even in person here, I think he's somebody that doesn't want to do the whole string you along. Like, I remember when they delayed Last of Us at that one time, it did feel like, I know everyone doesn't want to delay games, but it really felt like they, including him, were really disappointed. And especially now the way it leaked, I'm sure they are really disappointed. But I think that they are somebody that they, almost like the Bethesda, where they want to be revealing and showing everything when we're on that road getting ready to. I don't think he wants to be kind of almost what Kojima was for a few years with Death Stranding, where it's like a little here, a little here. Luckily for me, I was hyped for it all, but some people aren't, right? You don't want to Far Cry 6 yourself. You don't want to be that game everyone's always talking about, but it's a little far away. Yeah, I've talked about this so many times. Last of Us, I could make a case for it being the greatest game of all time. I know you got your problems with some of the gameplay and stuff, but for me, I could list all these reasons for why the gameplay works, the story, and the story, I still think it's probably the best video game story that's ever happened. And, you ask my wife, my significant other, whatever you want to call her, Emily, Ellie is named after an Up character. And that is kind of true. But for me, how I got Ellie was when I was playing Last of Us 2. Like, that's a good name. And I love the character of Ellie. She's one of my favorite ones. So you ask her, it's from that. You ask me, it's a bit of both, but it's more Ellie here. So this game is near and dear to my heart. This whole segment was, I was caught up. it was mixed about the whole thing. This was one, it's weird to end on it, and that shows like, man, he really didn't have like anything else. Because I think what was a big bummer of this, and for me was a bummer, I thought for sure because those Kojima rumors we got this week, I'm like, oh, it's ending with the Kojima game, because we got these rumors of, I'm sure you'll talk about in the future when there's more details, but Margot Qualley's starring in a game called Overdose, and it's Kojima's horror game, right? And I'm like, oh, if that's the closer, that's good. I didn't think that Death Stranding 2 would be a good closer, but I thought this Overdose game would be. So that didn't happen. Last of Us as a segment, it makes sense because Neil Druckmann is one of those names that you bring out there, and he's one of the biggest names in video games, so it happens. But it's doing that thing again of, hey, the TV show is happening, and I can't wait for the TV show. And I think it is actually really cool that Troy and Ashley got roles in it, because clearly they can't, like, Troy can't play a 50-year-old guy and Ashley can't play a 12-year-old girl. But that's fun for me as a fan. It's like, oh, it does really feel like the celebration. They're letting Neil direct an episode, which maybe he got a deal for, but still. So that was cool, but just same thing, like, I don't need to hear about it here. The multiplayer game, I'm just so torn on. That one I really need to be sold on. Obviously, people can go back and check on my Last of Us 2 review. I had a long one there, but that one did make me question, like, hey, am I done with this universe? But I still always just come back to it because I do love it, and I want to know how much of a story there is. Is it a little blurb like The Division where, oh yeah, there's a story, great setup, and then you're just off on your own doing your things? Or is it really like a full-on multiplayer experience where you're playing a story and like, it's just so tough for me to imagine. And then my second point is just that, obviously, again, this got leaked everywhere, but the remake, it has been 10 years, which feels like crazy that it's already been 10 years since we got the first Last of Us. And I have seen the comparisons, and they do look great. Some of the side-by-sides, I think this is just purely for the people that missed it. You know, like Fanboy Clay was mad because he said he just played through Last of Us, and now they're, announcing a remake, so that sucks for people like that. But I think there's money enough in it. I don't need to go back and play them yet. I think I will in some point in my life, but so I guess I was mixed all over this segment, but for the big main event, as far as the multiplayer game, I need to be sold on that, because I don't play Last of Us for multiplayer. That's not the game like that I vision, like, we need this. But I didn't think about Ghost of Tsushima, and maybe this is gonna come out and be like that, where it's like, wow, this really warrants an old game and everything. And again, Sony's creaming their jeans to get another Last of Us title. Like, there's been rumors of a Last of Us 3, and they even poked Neil. They're like, hey, you got a new product. I felt like he was kind of telling Jeff to, like, fuck off, and Jeff was like, oh, so you can't talk about it yet. He's like Neil was really like, no, I'm not talking about it. Like, it felt like Jeff was just trying to get a scoop there, and he was not really, again, he doesn't want to talk about it. So if we don't get a Last of Us 3, this is the closest thing you can get
heard
to
those
it.
Rumors.
There, okay, I guess it wasn't a rumor, but what happened was Neil did some interview where when 2 came out, he's like, yeah, I'm done with this universe. But then later on, like a few months later, he's like, I've had like some ideas in my mind, but now maybe those ideas got implanted into this multiplayer game,
made
right?
It sound though like he wasn't working on the multiplayer game. Like, he's at the studio, obviously, and he's, advisor in some way, but he even mentioned some other person who's kind of the lead on it.
True.
So it sounds like, and it's different characters and such. So
maybe they were purely just story ideas, though, because he even said like it's set in a different place. So maybe he just
sure they get like feedback from him, and he's there on the day to day. But I don't think that's I don't think that's him exploring more of that world. I just think that, like, Last of Us seems to me like something that they come back to in another 10 years. Like,
I agree.
Go make another make another new IP, because Uncharted. I mean, maybe they could make another one of those, but I think it's about time for them to make something new, and that'd be exciting for people.
Yeah, and I'd love it too. The same way we talked about weeks ago with Kojima. It's like, yeah, a Death Stranding 2, I'd be there for it, but I want to see what else he's doing. That's kind of the same way I'm with Neil, where Last of Us, I'm fine to never go back to, and if it is, like you said, years later, and then this multiplayer maybe quenches the thirst. Maybe it's good enough that myself and other fans that don't want the multiplayer will like this. It's going to be in that world. I'm sure there's going to be some fun lore stuff maybe put in there. I'm very curious. To me, it is about the story for this one, because if it's just you're in that world doing missions and stuff, and that doesn't sound too interesting for me. But he said sometime next year. That's what he said as far as details. So
yeah, I think for me this segment would have worked a lot better as, like, even Jeff Keighley and Neil Druckmann sit down for a 15-minute conversation between these two, and they can do it in person still, and like they can show off these images and whatnot. But to me, like, to have a multiplayer thing where you only have concept art, and then to have an update on the show and you only have one picture, Like to me,
Yeah.
that's pretty uninteresting, especially as your closer. And I mean, Street Fighter 6, and then this is the closer. Like very, we always talk about that. Like, what do you start and end the show with? And
Yeah.
like very much dropped the ball here. And as for in terms of The Last of Us, now they're calling it Part 1 remake. This has been rumored, and pretty much the word from like I think it was Jason Schreier, even so a notable source, was that Naughty Dog right now, like they don't have their next game lined up, so those devs had nothing to do, and so they just remade Part 1 because they had a couple years to kill. And to me, that is just so sad, because this is like one of, if not the like highest caliber AAA development studio in the world, with a huge team, tons and tons of talent, and for like them to just be remaking this game that's still modern, like it's just, to me, seems like such a waste of talent. It's really disappointing. Like as a personal level though, I don't really care that much, because I'm not really a Naughty Dog guy, and I'm not chomping at the bit to see what their next game is, because every time I've tried, the gameplay just does not work for me. I'm just talking about how amazing these developers are. They're just not necessarily making my games, and that's why once again I'm excited for the TV show, because I can get into that story without having to play the game. But yeah, I guess they actually had some more to show for Part 1, because it's coming out this year. That remake is coming out in September, was it? So pretty soon here.
I'm curious to see how it does, because I think
what the price point is.
It's a full price. I think that's been come out as full price. Yeah, and people are like, really? And that's where I am, because I think of course there's people that did miss it, but it's a question of how large that base, because that was, if you look at that history too, we always talk about this, but the PS3 did end up outselling the Xbox, and Last of Us had a lot to do with that, because I remember I always tell the story, when I was at Best Buy, people come to the store, ask for Last of Us, and we were legitimately sold out. You could not get, and this Best Buy, we had always stocked tons of games. Last of Us was selling like hotcakes, so it's not like it's like, definitely some people missed it, but it's not like one of those cult classics where, like eventually Last of Us became a big deal. It's like, no, it was a big deal when it released. So it's just it's strange that already 10 years, but that's where it is. It was a big enough
deal to get a remaster already, and
and
then I think it's like even in the PS Plus collection, or just on PS Plus. I think
you can play it on now, I imagine,
I know
or whatever.
On PS Plus in one of the months. Yeah. But I think it's on like that PlayStation Plus collection, and then playable in multiple ways already. So I'm really curious how the numbers do on it. I think you'll just still get a lot of people who just pick it up because they love Last of Us again, and they'll probably make a lot of money, and they'll say, "Oh, this was a good thing. Let's keep doing this." And
Last of Us 2 remake, baby.
So, God, I hope not. That's kind of
no, me too. I agree with you, everything you said about the teams and around stuff. Like, there's just not even something smaller they could have done, but hopefully whatever they're working on next is something worth the wait.
Yeah. That was all the games. There was just one last thing I want to mention, and that is that Jeff mentioned that Summer Game Fest is coming back next year, and he said it's going to also have an in-person event next year. So what do you think that means? Like, is that going to be what E3 is? Like, is it going to be just an audience for press conferences? Is it going to be a convention floor where you have cosplayers running around and people selling merch and all that? Like, what do you think the in-person part means?
I think it's 100% E3 copy. I think it's going to have that very similar format. You're going to have demos, because Jeff's always, and that's a good thing about him, he's always saying, like, when there's a game that they can show and there's a demo or you could play it, he's like, I want to get more games in your hands. And it could just be a fun, joyous thing to say, but that's kind of been pretty consistent with all these events, that he's always had demos and he's always tried to, like, want people to play games and stuff like that. So I genuinely do believe him in that, and that's where I think you will have that. My hope is that it's run a bit better, and I hope we're not getting like celebrity basketball games that was being pitched for the last few years of E3 and stuff, and those people are gone now, so hopefully next year if E3 does come back, it's much better. But I think it's identical to that, because I just think I think Jeff, he worked with E3 for so many years. I think he just had that idea of eventually, hey, I can do this and better. And I think that's where it almost does kill E3 even more, because he's taken over this weekend. We've talked about this before too, like State of Play, Xbox, they're all technically like this Summer Games Fest thing, right? And it's a weird correlation because they get announced as their own thing and then they get adopted into the Summer Game Fest. So I never know, like, are they always a part of that?
That's weird,
yeah. Are they always a part of that? And does Xbox and PlayStation just like blow the horn? Because it's not like they're denying it. They'll tweet out stuff like, yeah, we are part of Summer Games Fest. So if that is the case, I think it's just almost more designed to be an E3 killer. Because if E3 is going to come back this weekend next year, that's not going to happen because I think more people will flock to Summer Games Fest, both developers and even just people now. So I think it's going to be maybe a few little things different here and there, but I think at least the demo aspect, walk around the show floor, and I think remember at one point E3 where it was just you could only have the media in the room, and then it was the media and fans. I think from day one, you'll be able to be a fan and watch press conferences because he wants that hype. He wants the cheers. You want that Twitter moment of when Keanu comes out and, he's pointing the crowd. Yeah. You want that with The Rock. Maybe that's why he's letting promote it because next year I'll be there live, buddy. Like you want that trending clip and trending clip and video. So I think it will be show floor. Yeah, I think you'll be right with cosplay, and then I think the multi-day event will be spread out there, and then I think fans in the big showcases.
Yeah, so I'm really curious to see what the date is for that, because E3 said they're coming back too. So if those things are the same weekend. Ooh, that will be weird.
Oh, yeah.
And if they're even 1 week apart, that'll be weird. So I cannot wait to see what happens there. That should be exciting / scary. We'll keep an eye on that. Any final thoughts on Summer Game Fest here that you want to shout out?
No, I had a fun time talking with you, and I hope, and I honestly, my prediction is when we're talking about his next event obviously we got Xbox, so hopefully that's great, but that's not his event. My prediction is in December when we get Game Awards. I think it's going to be a banger, and I think it's going to be back to the way it is because I think he is going to look a lot of criticism, and I think he's going to turn it around. Now, there might be a few problems, might still be a good amount of ads, but I think that he's going to know, even if it's screen time and stuff like that, to pace it better, things like that. So hopefully this is just a bump in the road, and everyone has an off time. Obviously you don't want to be Summer Games Fest, that happens once a year, but still I got to see some games that I didn't know about or hadn't seen yet, and I'm excited, and it fills that slot. So I at least liked it for the gamer in me, but now it's just what happens next year. That's the what's the rematch of it all. So
yeah, I think it like that timing of being in December, I feel like is just primed to have so many good release dates there with Wild, God of War could pop up there, the Starfields, the Redfalls. Like there's a lot of things that we know are just chilling in 2023 right now.
Oh yeah.
And so that could clear the air on a lot of things. Whereas a lot of those things you wouldn't expect to see them here necessarily. You'd think maybe it's focused on things for the rest of the year, even though there was still a lot 2023. But yeah, this was fun to break it down because there was a few games here that we are both pretty excited for. Travis, I think Strikers is loaded up on my Switch, ready to go.
Oh,
so I'm
man.
Go play some of that. Got to get practiced up
Yeah.
for our stream on Saturday.
Yeah,
for
Strikers
our
Cup, yeah.
We'll be back on Sunday for some Xbox. You guys are reviewing Jurassic Park as well, or Jurassic World, rather, I should say.
Yep.
And then Strikers review on Monday. And yeah, like you said, Nintendo ambiguously has not announced a thing yet, so we will see what happens there.
Maybe when you load up Strikers, there are directs in it. Before you play Strikers, here's your 50-minute direct, and
you have to beat the bots on the highest difficulty to unlock the direct. Yeah, that would be some wild marketing. That's how you get the Breath of the Wild 2 release date and trailer. That's the only way.
That'd be huge. Yeah, that'd be big time. Yeah,
people would buy the game just for that.
Yeah.
Travis, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun. We did our predictions, and then we came back and filled out our thoughts. So it's a good time. We will be back again next year. All the problems we have, we'll be back. We'll be covering it again next year. And we will see everyone else in a few days. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. See ya.